All right, let's jump right into this. Today we're unpacking a massive structural transformation that's currently underway. We are looking at the literal upgrading of India's economic engine. From completely revamping how physical infrastructure gets funded to locking down digital ecosystems that serve over 1 billion people, we're going to explore the nuts and bolts of a macroeconomic foundation that is undergoing a radical modernization right now. So if you love understanding how the really big pieces of a national economy fit together, you are definitely in the right place. Okay, let's dive into this. To make sense of these complex updates, we'll look at 4 key pillars: powering India's green future, tracking wealth and inclusion, fighting digital financial fraud, and finally, global finance and risk. Let's get to it. Section 1. Powering India's green future, infrastructure and energy growth.
So every modern economy requires a robust physical foundation, right? But more importantly, it requires a massive amount of capital to actually build and fund it. And that brings us to the National Investment and Infrastructure Fund, or NIIF. Headquartered over in Mumbai, you can think of this as a massive, government-anchored platform designed specifically to mobilize long-term capital for crucial infrastructure projects. In fact, the Union Finance Minister recently chaired the 6th Governing Council meeting of the NIIF in New Delhi. The whole agenda was focused on reviewing fund performance, analyzing new strategic partnerships, and mapping out upcoming fund launches. This is literally the financial muscle enabling the country's physical growth.
Now, you might be wondering, where is a lot of that capital actually going? Well, a huge chunk is going straight into energy. The International Energy Agency recently released some fascinating data. They ranked India as the 3rd fastest-growing country in the entire world for power generation capacity over the last 5 years, sitting just behind China and the United States. But here's the kicker. This isn't just about pouring money into traditional fossil fuels anymore. The real driver here is a highly aggressive clean energy agenda. To put it in perspective, solar photovoltaic investments made up over half of all non-fossil energy investments during this period. That is a massive shift. And this right here perfectly highlights the sheer innovation behind this energy transition. Think about traditional abandoned coal mines. They are incredibly dangerous, and they leak highly potent methane, which, by the way, has 28 times more warming potential than carbon dioxide. It's a huge environmental hazard. However, according to the Global Energy Monitor, India now ranks 4th globally in the potential to take these closed, hazardous mines and turn them into massive solar assets. States like Telangana and Odisha actually have the land availability to potentially generate over 22 gigawatts of solar power just from these legacy sites. It's like the ultimate economic glow-up, turning a serious environmental liability into a major ecological asset.
Moving on to Section 2, Tracking Wealth and Inclusion, the human layer.
Okay, so now that we've looked at the physical infrastructure, how does a country accurately track the financial health and the actual wealth of its massive population? It's a highly debated question, and it's one that the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation is finally gearing up to answer. They've just announced India's first ever household income survey, which is slated for 2026. This massive undertaking is being guided by a technical expert group led by economist Sujit Bala. But honestly, hearing this just begs the question, why hasn't this been successfully done since the 1950s? I mean, what caused this massive, decades-long data gap?
Well, the somewhat funny but very real truth is, the historic data collection methods were basically just mathematically broken. Previous income estimates from back in the 1950s were so highly unreliable that they often resulted in income figures that were actually lower than what people were consuming and saving combined. Unless people were somehow magically manifesting money out of thin air, the math simply did not add up. So this new 2026 survey is absolutely crucial today. We desperately need accurate, modern data to assess how rapid technology adoption is actually affecting everyday wages and living standards.
But, while we wait for that macro-level data to come in, the micro-level push for financial inclusion is clearly already working. Take the India Post Payments Bank, for example. Launched back in 2018, it cleverly relies on the country's massive existing postal network to reach the unbanked and underbanked populations. And their execution is totally getting recognized. IPPB just won the prestigious Digital Payments Award for 2024-25 from the Ministry of Finance, and they secured the outright first position in the Performance Index among all payments banks. They are out there successfully bringing millions of people into the formal economy.
Section 3. Fighting Digital Financial Fraud, Systemic Security.
So once you bank millions of new citizens and rapidly digitize your economy, you instantly create a massive new target for cybercriminals, right? Systemic security goes from being a nice-to-have to absolutely paramount. The Reserve Bank of India is tackling this head-on with a new piece of digital public infrastructure called the Digital Payment Intelligence Platform, or DPIP. Right now, the Reserve Bank Innovation Hub is building a working prototype of the system alongside 5 to 10 major banks. The main goal here? To use advanced technologies to allow the real-time sharing of intelligence across the entire banking sector. They want to identify and stop fraudulent digital transactions dead in their tracks before the money is actually gone.
And here is how some of that systemic protection practically works on a day-to-day basis for you and me. The RBI has directed all banks and UPI providers to use something called the Financial Fraud Risk Indicator. This tool was launched by the Department of Telecommunications Digital Intelligence Unit. So, when a transaction occurs, Step 1 instantly analyzes the associated mobile number. Step 2 marks that specific number as a medium, high, or very high financial fraud risk based on back-end intelligence data. And Step 3 uses that flag to instantly protect everyday UPI and bank customers from accidentally sending their hard-earned money to a scammer. It's like a real-time bodyguard for your wallet.
But hey, it isn't just about protecting individuals. It's also about tracking massive government spending. Mark your calendars for a major deadline, July 16th, 2025. Starting on that date, all government departments must process payments above 75 crore rupees, which, by the way, is 750 million rupees, a massive chunk of change, exclusively through the eKuber system. Now, eKuber is the RBI's core banking solution. By forcing these massive payments through this unified system, the government is going to dramatically improve the real-time tracking, the speed, and the overall transparency of how huge amounts of public funds are distributed to vendors and contractors.
Finally, Section 4, Global Finance and Risk, Managing Macro-Level Threats.
As India's domestic economic engine scales up, its integration with international finance and, naturally, its exposure to massive macro-level threats like climate change scales up right alongside it. A prime example of how they are handling this is India's exploration of catastrophe bonds, or CAT bonds, which is slated for July 2025. As climate resilience becomes a huge priority, the country needs much better disaster risk financing to handle severe threats, like major cyclones and floods. CAT bonds are brilliant. They're these hybrid financial instruments that basically combine features of insurance and debt. They allow governments to transfer the financial risk of a catastrophic natural disaster away from local taxpayers and put it directly onto global institutional investors.
The unique risk-reward balance here is honestly fascinating. Think about it. If a defined natural disaster actually occurs, the investor loses part or all of their principal investment. Those funds are then immediately unlocked for the government to use for rapid relief and reconstruction. But on the flip side, if the bond reaches maturity and no disaster occurs, the investor gets their full principal back plus a very high interest yield for taking on that risk. It's an incredibly innovative way to leverage global capital markets for domestic climate resilience.
Of course, to attract that kind of massive global capital, you absolutely need world-class regulatory environments. Enter the IFSCA, the International Financial Services Centers Authority. Established as a statutory regulator, this body is headquartered at Gift City in Gandhinagar, Gujarat. Currently, Gift City is India's only international financial services center, and the IFSCA is tasked with regulating all the financial products, services, and institutions operating within it. This signals India's very serious intent to become a premier, trusted global financial hub.
And the crazy thing is, we are seeing that global integration happen in real time right now. For instance, Taiwan's largest private bank, CTBC Bank, recently applied to set up an IFSC banking unit right there in Gift City. When massive foreign private institutions like this start moving in, it acts as a tremendous vote of confidence. It fundamentally strengthens Gift City's appeal and its overall credibility on the international stage.
We've covered some incredible ground today. We've seen exactly how India is funding its green physical infrastructure, how it's figuring out ways to accurately measure household wealth, how it's building cutting-edge, real-time shields against digital fraud, and how it's tapping into international capital for disaster resilience. So I want to leave you with this final thought. As India seamlessly links its vast solar energy potential, its highly transparent digital banking networks, and its global risk management strategies, which sector of this massive economic engine do you think is going to be forced to upgrade next? Let that sit with you. Keep learning, keep exploring, and I will see you in the next explainer.